Think Realty Nation, it's your host, Avi Golhar. Welcome to the Think Realty podcast. In this show, if you're a real estate investor that is renting out property, if you're a landlord, if you're a buy and hold investor, and you're looking for the right tool, you're looking for the right technology to help you grow and scale, to help you leverage your time. Because I get it, right? Like, you're somebody that has maybe 5 or 10 or 15 or 30 properties, and you're pulling your hair out trying to figure out a way to streamline your stuff. And instead of using Google Sheets, Zapier, Podio, Globiflow, and a hodgepodge of other types of tools, yeah, you know what I mean, because you're laughing, and I get it. You can laugh, you just keep laughing at yourself because you're making the wrong tech decisions and not using a piece of software that I like to call Avail, or that we're talking about today called Avail. So we're going to bring Lawrence, who is with Avail, who has put this together and is the mastermind genius behind this entire piece of technology, aka the big cheese, aka also known as trying to figure out like how to find a better dev team than I ever have in my entire life. So at some point we'll talk about that too. This podcast is brought to you by Clint Coons of Anderson Business Advisors, nationally recognized for providing bulletproof asset protection, tax, and business strategy advice to real estate investors. And go to getbulletprooftoday.com and receive his book titled Asset Protection for Real Estate Investors for free while supplies last. We have to talk about tech. We're talking about landlording, buy and hold investors. Listen up. This is your show. Lawrence, welcome. How you doing, man?
Doing well. Thank you for having me on.
You got it. I'm excited to have this conversation because you and I were talking just before we started recording, and I mentioned, man, I would have loved to work on something like this a year ago, except, I mean, you know how development teams are, right? They're like unavailable or too expensive or unavailable. So give me a little background. How did all of this come into being, and why this niche? Why did you want to serve the landlord space?
Yeah, well, I mean, 7 years ago when we started this, I was a landlord. I had a single 3-flat multi-unit here in Chicago, and I was working at Goldman Sachs full-time and managing rental properties part-time. And I realized I wanted to start thinking about it as a business, start looking for tools and processes to help make it easier. I didn't want to spend my time going to Craigslist and redoing the post every single day to try to find tenants. I thought that it should be automated. I didn't want to have to keep using Excel to like kind of merge cells, paint them, print it out, and have that be my rental application. It just didn't feel professional. And so it turned into, what can I do to streamline this? I went looking for tools and software to do it. Nothing affordable for someone with 3 units. And
right.
So a buddy of mine, Ryan, and I decided, we're going to quit our jobs and build this ourselves and make it available for investors like us who are kind of on the smaller side, someone with 9 units or less, can't afford the big tech. Let's make something that's intuitive, user-friendly, does what you need. So that's where we started. We quit our jobs. And, just like you said you couldn't find engineers. Well, neither could we. None that were affordable, none that wanted to work for equity. And so Ryan and I decided to roll up our sleeves. We taught ourselves to code. And we actually built the initial product ourselves. So I think I put the first 500,000 lines of code together to make this app.
That's crazy. And what's so to offer perspective for those that are watching and listening, learning how to code is no easy task, and then coding something like this is like absurdly difficult, right? It's not like you can plug and play and all of a sudden, yay, whoopee-doo, you have like an app that you can use. It doesn't work like that. So
yeah,
congratulations.
It's not like a WordPress site where you put up your marketing and then
right. It's not like Wix.com. Right. We
had to build everything from scratch. We had to convince TransUnion to open up an API for us so that we could hook in and get real-time credit reports. That was a critical feature that landlords wanted to be able to screen tenants.
Yeah.
We had to have a bank expose an API to us so that we could allow tenants to make their rent payments online and be able to pull money out of their accounts and put it in a landlord's account. So almost everything is custom built from scratch using
That's awesome.
barely any plugins.
That's awesome. So just out of curiosity, you couldn't use a Plaid API to make that happen?
Yeah, so sorry, like when I say from scratch, we do actually use Plaid. So
Okay.
for bank
Okay.
account authentication,
Yes.
but Plaid doesn't process payments for you.
Right.
So
That's
it
right.
will just help. It'll help you identify an account and routing number in a very secure way, and we love working with them.
Yep.
But you then have to coordinate with a bank and have money actually come in and out of accounts.
Yes, exactly. And for viewers and for those that are listening, this is tech that you should be using, right? And exactly what Lawrence is saying, it's no longer good enough to do everything pen and paper. It's not good enough to like go to your desktop, double click the doc file and print out an application and meet somebody and sign it. It has to be e-sign. They have to be able to sign it on their phone with their finger, and they should get a signed copy back in their email. These are all the things that Avail does. So Lawrence, help me understand some of the components that you built from scratch. And it's crazy. I'm an engineer, and I can't find any good engineers. This is ridiculous. But what are some of the major components that you found landlords and rental owners were looking for that you built into Avail?
Yeah, well, it started honestly with what Ryan and I needed for our rental properties. Ryan had 2 single-family homes, and by the time we got going, I actually had 2 3 flats. So we started off with just I need to do the day-to-day of being a landlord. So finding tenants. We were tired of Craigslist having to post every day. We were tired of kind of the low-quality leads, and so the first feature that we thought landlords really needed, and a process around it, is how do you find tenants? And you don't really want to post on just one location. So what we built is you come to Avail, you create a listing with us, and we syndicate it for you. So we'll take it, we'll automatically ads, apartments.com, rent.com, kind of all the places that you don't want to have to spend hours recreating the same listing over and over again. We'll just send it to those places. And so we built that for ourselves initially and had several of our friends using it. And we saw that the number of leads landlords were getting in that first week was 20 plus leads. And because of the number of places you're putting in, it's just overwhelming. And so we realized like the very next thing you have to do is figure out how do you take those 20 leads and start identifying which ones are the ones you want to move forward with. And that's where the whole tenant screening process comes in. I think part of the key thing that we built was also incorporating the education into the tool and automation so that you know why you're doing what you're doing. Most landlords actually don't screen tenants. They'll typically take the first one that shows interest, at least landlords of our size. And so we really wanted to build this in a way where it helped educate you that you should be screening. And so we hooked into TransUnion, pull credit reports, criminal background check, eviction checks. We have tenants fill out a formal rental application with rental histories, employment history, income verification, all the things that a landlord should have access to make a decision. And then we do it in a way where it's tenant friendly, because if you normally as a tenant, you write it on a piece of paper, that piece of paper can get lost. It goes in the filing cabinet. It could be stolen. It could be whatever. But here in the cloud, it's encrypted. So although someone could maybe hack our system, they wouldn't see much because it's encrypted. And then it gives the tenant control over when they want to revoke access to something like that. Because today's age, if you hand a piece of paper over to someone, I can't go get it back, and they have that information forever. But with something online, you can always revoke it, and you maintain control over your own data. That was important to us.
And that's a really good point, and that's something that I was just about to ask: is if I'm a rental owner, what's my liability here, right? Like, is how long am I going to keep this information? How often do I have access to it? Would I get sued if a tenant's like, well, how do you have all of my? Because you have those people out there, right? They're all like your privacy freaks, and they're like, oh, you have all this stuff on me, and it's not right. And I'm like, one word for you, ladies and gentlemen, echelon. But that's a different, that's a totally different conversation. But how do you keep that secure? That's on your platform, or it's not on your platform. How does one keep something secure for those that don't know?
Yeah, well, sure. I mean, you can go like super tech heavy discussion if you wanted to. But for the most part, you tend to have one computer called a server where you house the core logic for how you operate with the web. And then you have a different server where you have the database that has the data. And then you have a third, which keeps like the keys that help the two talk to each other. And so even if you hacked one, you wouldn't have access to the keys to decrypt the data. You'd need to hack all of them, essentially. So it makes it really hard for someone to come and hack it. And then the data itself is encrypted using 256-bit encryption. So you'd need some massive supercomputers and something to decrypt that data, even if you could get access to it. So it's a lot more secure than what tenants are doing now, which is filling out the information on a piece of paper that's really easy to steal. I could go
Yeah, that's
Someone can
right.
go into a large management company and just take hundreds or thousands of tenants' information. Same thing's true on payments too. I tend to think of how tenants pay via check now, and you're basically handing your account and routing number on a piece of paper.
Right.
And
Like, why would you do that?
yeah, and especially in today's world too, with the pandemic and all that, where everyone's wanting to go contactless, it seems like checks are even more a thing of the past.
So who's the ideal person or the ideal landlord to use this? Somebody that has over 50 units, somebody that has over like hundreds and hundreds of units, or somebody that's a little smaller, maybe
Yeah,
2, 3, 4, or 5 units?
yeah, it's the smaller landlord. We target landlords with 9 or fewer units, and it might seem like there's not a lot of those, but they actually make up 55% of the rental market. So there's 8
Yeah.
million of those landlords. They own and manage 24 million rental properties, and I think there's 45, 46 million rental properties in total. So they're
Yep.
managing just over half of them. So
Yep.
it's a huge market, and they're hard to find. They're hard to market to. They're hard to build something for because a lot of them don't identify as landlords. That's kind of, I'm doing this part time. If you
Yeah.
ask me, if I met you somewhere and you ask me what do I do, like it's unlikely I'm going to tell you I'm a landlord.
Right. It's
And
like a right. It's a kind of like a side hustle for a lot of people. So if I wanted
yeah,
to jump in and I wanted to learn more about pricing, about how it works, you've done a great job in describing it, but also maybe scroll through some of the features and see if it would be a good fit for me that has 6 or 7 or 8 units. What's the website? How do I get there? How do I get access? Is there a free demo? What do I need to do?
yeah. So you can access it at avail.co, which is just avail.co, and it's free actually. If you've got unlimited number of units, it's free. We do have a premium plan if you need a little bit of extra. So if you wanted to have automatic late fees, for instance, if a tenant hasn't been paying and you just want to automatically charge a $25 late fee,
Yeah.
you can upgrade for things like that. But the core services are entirely free.
Awesome. Well, geez, that's www.avail.co. If there's one thing that you could leave us with for landlords specifically about Avail, what would it be?
Sure. Well, I think especially with the size landlord we cater to, we're not professionals, right? We're doing it part time. I think whether you use Avail or not, you want to have a process in place to help you think about how to manage your properties. There's a normal flow that you want to go through. You want to be compliant with laws. You want to understand what your liabilities are, do the right things, and software like Avail is certainly going to help you accomplish the tasks you need to do. But with Avail specifically, we're going to help you make sure you're doing it correctly and in the right sequence for all of your units. And so I think that's probably what separates us from everyone else is we've bundled everything you need as a landlord in one place and can help you then navigate from step to step. And we really incorporate that education into the product itself. It's almost the education itself is really kind of our core feature.
Lawrence, thanks so much for the time. This was really informative. I'm happy. I'm so happy there's somebody out there that's catering to the smaller landlord. And there's no technology. I'm not going to say there's no technology, but the stuff that I've seen sucks. And I'm glad that you're in this space, you're disrupting it, you're in the industry, and you're taking this softer approach to a smaller part of the to a large part of the market that holds the smaller units individually that really need this help and support. And if it weren't for like the little guy in this case, the market wouldn't be as large as it is. So thank you so much for everything that you've been doing. And if you're interested in learning more about Lawrence's team and understanding how technology can benefit your landlording business and your rentals and how you can leverage it so you can spend and invest your time doing other things that are more important to you, go check out www.avail.co. Lawrence, thanks so much for the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
You got it. This next segment is brought to you by Real Property Management, which is the largest residential property management franchise in North America, managing tens of thousands of properties for individuals, investors, and institutions throughout the country. Learn more at realpropertymgt.com or call 888-806-7088. So let's talk about this one real quick. The 10 best cash flow markets in light of COVID-19. So I've been having a lot of conversations with investors and institutional investors the last month and a half or two, and everybody seems to be going to like your secondary market, which is very interesting. And it's funny that they say this because even during the Think Realty radio show, before we turned to an amazing video podcast that we have now with a really good-looking host. I just have to say that, I mean, before all this, we were talking about why secondary markets are super, super important. Like, they're tremendously important. You found deals, opportunity, yield, appreciation, the right leverage. So let's take a look at some of these markets. And this is an article written by the editorial staff of the Think Realty magazine, so definitely check it out. Number one, Flint, Michigan. Outside of the water problems that you may know Flint, Michigan for, the home value in 2018 was $28,700. In 2010 was $66,000, so a really interesting value there. Median rent in 2018, $714 per month, and the rent-to-price ratio roughly at about 49%. So that's number one. Number two is Detroit, Michigan. Number three is Youngstown, Ohio. Number four is Gary, Indiana. If you don't know a whole lot about Gary, Indiana, it's where Michael Jackson was born, number one. Number two, it has an insane opportunity to buy single-family rentals. Muncie, Indiana, a really big logistics and trucking industry out of Muncie, Indiana. Hammond, Indiana. Reading, Pennsylvania. Buffalo, New York. Canton, Ohio. Cleveland, Ohio. You want to know what's interesting about all of these? Like 90% of this list, they're all located in the Midwest United States. And I remember saying this about a year ago, that the Midwest United States is a part of the country everybody needs to have a portfolio in. Indiana, Ohio, Michigan. It's crazy, right? So go take a look, go to thinkrealty.com, read the article, see what you think, and let me know where you're investing, and maybe we can have you on the show highlighting the market and the community that you're buying in. And I think that'd be a fantastic opportunity. So get in touch. You can find me anywhere online at Abi Golhar, and I definitely want to thank the sponsor of today's podcast, who is Clint Coons, my good friend Clint Coons with Anderson Business Advisors. He's nationally recognized for providing bulletproof asset protection, tax, and business strategy advice to real estate investors. Go to getbulletprooftoday.com and receive his book titled Asset Protection for Real Estate Investors for free while supplies last. I've read the book. It's excellent, and you cannot miss it. So pick that up. Go to getbulletprooftoday.com and drop me a line anytime, anywhere on social. Think Realty Nation. Until next time, happy investing.